travelers! My name is Julia and I am the owner of the local travel company here in Ukraine, who is a supplier for Dynasty travel. And today I'd like to attract your attention to this amazing destination, and we can talk with you why you should visit Ukraine in the nearest future. I usually describe Ukraine in 3 words: unique, diverse, and authentic. And it is so. Ukraine is full of unique places. It has diverse history. It's still authentic, offering unforgettable experiences. I can really talk a lot about my country, but at the moment I'd like to offer you to see this video and try to feel what it's like to be in Ukraine.
What is it like to be in Ukraine? To hear local legends and stories, to feel hospitality and genuine smiles that make you feel at home, to stroll along the streets of Kyiv or Lviv and admire breathtaking places, steeped in history and diverse, often intriguing culture. To connect with locals, to explore and find something new. To feel how much is still to be discovered here. To feel welcome. To fall in love with this country and its people. It's impossible to say what it's like to be in Ukraine. All you have to do is come and experience it for yourself. Enjoy Ukraine now.
Now it's time to immerse yourself a little bit into 2 cities in Ukraine, which, by the way, included in the tour itinerary offered by Dynasty Travel. I'd like to speak about Kyiv, the capital of Ukraine, and Lviv, one of the most beautiful cities in our country. We often call Kyiv the heart of the country, and Lviv is the soul. They are completely different in terms of history and architecture, but they definitely have unique places to discover, and they offer memorable historical and architectural experiences. For instance, there is the Motherland statue in Kyiv, which was built during Soviet times, and it was the first tallest sculpture in USSR, and now it is in the top 10 tallest sculptures in the world. By the way, it's higher than the Statue of Liberty in New York City. So let's have a better look at the statue and complex in general, and I offer you to have an amazing walking tour with our tour guide Asa. By the way, who can be your guide when you come to Kyiv?
Best greetings from Kyiv. Welcome to GC Travel Ukraine channel. My name is Asa, and I know you've been waiting for a long time for our tour of Second World War Memorial Complex and Motherland statue in Kyiv. Did you know I can make dreams happen? That's why I'm gonna take you around, reveal the hidden meanings behind the monuments, advise how to get on a shield of Motherland statue, and impress you with the stunning views of the city. The plan and the decision to establish Kyiv Museum of the History of Second World War emerged in June 1943, but different political and economic issues postponed the construction until the mid-70s of the last century. Later, on May the 9th, 1981, on the Victory Day, leader of the USSR, Leonid Brezhnev, came personally all the way from Moscow for the opening. Total area of the memorial is about 11 hectares. On your left, you'll see Fire of Glory, while to your right, on a platform, there is an exhibition of military equipment and arms, tanks, artillery, mortars, and legendary Katyusha, of course. To get to the main museum and Motherland statue, we will go through the gallery. which houses 5-meter bronze compositions that recreate the courage of border guards, grief of the mothers, the inviolability of those who found themselves in the occupied territories, the dedication of the members of the resistance movement and workers of the rear. This impressive gallery reflects the way Ukraine went through the Second World War. Unfortunately, each and every family got involved and lost someone. When you get to the main square of the memorial, you'll see a sculpture named Crossing the Dnieper, dedicated to the soldiers who liberated Kyiv in autumn of 1943. In Soviet times, authorities kept a secret what was the real price for the freedom of Kyiv. But now KGB X-files are open, and I can tell you, the cost of it was 400,000 lives. Out of the whole complex, the most impressive, of course, is the Motherland statue. It is a kind of a hallmark of modern Kyiv, crowning the main building of the memorial, and recalls the heroism of the people during the war. This monument is really breathtaking. A 62-meter figure of a woman with a shield in one hand and a sword in another, installed on a pedestal of 40 meters high. With the pedestal, the total height is 102 meters, which made the Motherland one of the highest monuments of the world. When you look at a Lady Motherland, it's hard to believe that her sword is 16 meters high and shield 12. Sculpture Motherland is a unique welded steel structure with 2 elevators inside. One of them can bring you all the way up to the viewpoint, located on the shield with a height of 91 meters. Oh, I've been there. Would you like to try? According to the leading experts, the monument Motherland will stand for more than 150 years. So you still have some time to plan your trip and visit, but why put it off for later? Sign up for JC Travel Ukraine channel, watch our videos, and book a tour, and maybe next time we will climb up that shield together. We would also be happy if you leave us your kind comment with other topics you would be interested in, and I would love to tell you more about Kyiv and Ukraine. Thank you very much for your attention and hope to see you in a while.
Also, in the tour itinerary, Dynasty Travel has a tour to a very unique place, the only such place in the world. It's Chernobyl. Have you heard about the Chernobyl nuclear accident which happened in 1986 when Ukraine was a part of USSR? Now this place is open for tourists and it's worth visiting. This is the unique experience that you can get in Ukraine. But you know, many travelers are afraid and concerned about the radiation and safety. And in the next online tour, I would like to give you a better understanding and dispel doubts. Chernobyl nuclear power plant was supposed to be the biggest in the world. However, instead, it became the biggest nuclear disaster in human's history. The accident of April 26, 1986 left many towns and villages abandoned forever. Now, thousands of tourists come here every year to learn about the tragic history of this place, to feel compassion, get unforgettable impressions, and see how nature is reborn and triumphant. I'm going to the Chernobyl exclusion zone now and will spend there 2 days.
I've been to Chernobyl 4 times already, but this time it will be something special because firstly, I will stay overnight in Chernobyl town in a simple Soviet hotel, and many of you ask me about the type of accommodation there, so you will see it yourself and will hear my impressions. And secondly, I will have a unique exclusive tour to the Chernobyl nuclear power plant itself, and you will be able to experience it with me. And of course, I will show you and tell you about the zone itself and all the locations that are usually covered during one-day tour to Chernobyl, which, by the way, you can book with us. So stay with me till the very end, not to miss out this adventure. Let's go! But before we get to the exclusion zone, let me answer the most important and frequently asked questions. The exclusion zone covers an area of approximately 2,600 square kilometers and placed under the Police and Security Service of Ukraine control. So we all understand that this is a restricted area with a non-free public entrance. From Kiev, the capital of Ukraine, it takes around 1.5–2 hours by car or bus to get to Detyatki, the first checkpoint of 30 kilometers zone. Basically, you'll be crossing 2 checkpoints of 30 and 10 kilometer zones to see the power plant and Pripyat. So let's figure out what 30 and 10 kilometer zones are. 10 kilometer zone, it's obligatory evacuation zone. Nobody lives there. So if you see people there, it means they are workers or tourists. 30 kilometer zone is a voluntary evacuation zone. There are people who are staying in between their shifts and some self-settlers. What about radiation, and is it safe to visit the Chernobyl exclusion zone? And that is the most important question. I'm not going to give you a lecture on alpha, beta and gamma radiation. This you will hear in details on your tour to Chernobyl. Let's talk a little bit in general about how much radiation you can be exposed to. Please note that you are not absorbing radiation, you are being exposed to it. It doesn't mean you are taking it with you to your home. On your tour to Chernobyl, you all will have a special device, Geiger counter, which measures the radiation. It will be beeping all the time and you will see different numbers. Those numbers are showing radiation in microsieverts. The average gamma level of radiation in European cities makes up to 0.25 microsieverts. The fatal dose for humans is 4 sievert. As an example, on a flight from Kiev to New York, you can get around 22 microsieverts. In the end of the tour, your Geiger counter will show how much radiation you've been exposed to. I've got 0.014 microsieverts. This answer suggests the conclusion. It is absolutely safe to go to the Chernobyl exclusion zone as a tourist, and not even for one day. So this is the plan for today, what we are gonna see and what usually visitors see on a day trip to the Chernobyl exclusion zone. We're gonna explore the Chernobyl town, then we will head to the non-existent Chernobyl 2 town where the radar Duga is located. We'll see buried village of Kopachi, panorama of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. We'll have lunch in a Soviet-style canteen, and of course we will have a walk in the ghost town of Pripyat. And on the second day, I'm gonna visit the nuclear power plant itself. I'll go inside. That's quite a unique and exclusive material. This is not a part of a regular tour, but anyway, you can book such experience, adventure on your private tour to Chernobyl. Many people don't know the difference between Pripyat and Chernobyl. Pripyat is the satellite city of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant, located about 3 kilometers from the station. However, at the time of opening the nuclear power plant, Pripyat hadn't been built yet. That's why the power plant was named after the nearest large city, Chernobyl, which is quite old city and located around 15 kilometers from the station. So the name Chernobyl went down in history as the symbol of this tragedy. Now it's partly abandoned. The residential buildings of Chernobyl have been turned into dormitories, where the workers of the exclusion zone live. And 2 hotels where tourists can stay overnight are located in this town. There is no statistic how many people live in Chernobyl. Just from the latest information, there were around 30 self-settlers live and up to 1,500 people who are shift workers in the zone. The city of Pripyat is completely abandoned. Now we are heading to the 10-kilometer zone where the power plant is located, as well as Raider Duga and the buried village of Kopachi. This huge construction behind me is a super secret raider, which saw its build during the Cold War and tried to hide in the middle of forest. The location was chosen not by chance, because this device consumed a lot of electricity, and it was assumed that the first and the second units of the nuclear power plant supplied electricity directly to the station of this raider. But what was the purpose of this construction? This radar was supposed to catch signals of missile launches from the territory of the North America during the Cold War. But it never worked properly, and basically it was the waste of time and money. Now it's time for lunch in a Soviet-style canteen. Basically, this is the place where workers of the power plant have their daily meals. You'll be checked first whether you are clean and doesn't have any radioactive dust on you, then you're welcome to enjoy your lunch. The food is absolutely safe, and you may not worry, you won't be glowing after eating here. As you can see, the lunch place is very simple, so the same as food. They have almost the same menu for many years, and there is not much of a choice, but anyway, you'll get a salad, the first course, which is usually borscht, the main dish. Today we have rice with meat, a bun and a drink. Not fancy, but it's tasty though. This observation deck of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant is a special place where you can get so close to the fourth reactor which exploded. And this is the only place where it's allowed to take pictures of it. From here you can see in detail the sarcophagus that covers the building of fourth power unit. It's officially the largest mobile engineering structure in the world, with a weight of more than 37,000 tons and 109 meters high. To understand how huge it is, let's imagine the Motherland statue in Kiev or the Statue of Liberty in New York. Any of these ladies could be put inside. So this unique construction was created to preserve the strong radiation background of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. Now it makes it possible to protect the surrounding area from radioactive substances. Also here on the observation deck you can see a monument to the liquidators of the consequences of the Chernobyl accident. After the disaster at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant, thousands of residents from surrounding villages were evacuated. Most of their houses were destroyed and buried. The only one building is survived. It's a kindergarten in the village of Kopachi. You can get inside and see the toys, piece of furniture, and many other stuff. It looks so creepy and sad at the same time. Now let's travel to the west of Ukraine and have a look at Lviv city. It is one of my favorite cities in Ukraine. I love being there, and I'm happy to invite you to immerse yourself into the main highlights you need to see in Lviv. This online tour is guided by one of our best tour guides in the city. Her name is Julia. And basically, these are one of the places you will experience when you come to Ukraine with Dynasty Travel.
Hello dear friends, my name is Julia. I'm a local tour guide here for JC Travel Ukraine in Lviv and Lviv region. I'm happy to greet you in my native city, and today we are going to explore the main highlights in Lviv, which in my opinion are must-see. Right now we are on the Memorial of Heavenly 100 Heroes, the very modern complex that was built only in 2019. And this is the place which I'm personally proud of. First of all, this is the place of memory of what happened in Ukraine in 2013 and 14. This is also the place for reflection of what we fought for. This place not only reminds us about the revolution of dignity, but also fills us with optimism. This complex is also a great place for enjoying panorama of the old town, which belongs to UNESCO heritage.
Lviv, or the City of Lions as we usually call it, is one of the most interesting cities in Ukraine. The city with a very rich and sometimes complicated history, beautiful architecture, amazing atmosphere, and a very distinct character for sure.
The city that was built for centuries by Ukrainians, Poles, Armenians, Italians, Jews, Germans, Austrians, Greeks, and very many different ethnicities. That's why the city is so unique. This is Rynek Square, the heart of city Lviv. Rynek comes from the German word ring, which means a circle, and here we have 44 buildings around, and in the middle we have the city hall with the city hall tower.
Nowadays, the City Hall Tower, or as we call it, Ratusha, has an observation terrace on the top, so anyone can come here and climb the tower. While climbing almost 400 steps, you'll have a great opportunity to see the clock mechanism, which has been working since 1852. And we also believe if one climbs the platform and makes a wish, at the same time the clock strikes, the wish will come true for sure. The architectural ensemble of the square took shape over centuries, preserving elements and aspects of a variety of styles and epochs.
Can you imagine that buildings in Lviv didn't have numbers even till the 18th century, Instead, there were names after the last names of the owners or after some peculiarities on the facades. As an example, here you can see Palazzo Bandinelli, the building that used to belong to Roberto Bandinelli, the owner, who opened here the first post office in Lviv in early 1600s. Nowadays, this building is one of the departments of Lviv Historical Museum. You can find very many churches in Lviv, and right now I'm standing next to one of the oldest churches, Latin Cathedral. This church is the only Gothic building in Lviv that survived after the biggest fire in 1527.
The construction of the Roman Catholic Cathedral began in the middle of the 14th century and lasted over 100 years. It was built by the order of the King Casimir the Great, and the initial project of the church belonged to a famous architect of that time, Peter Straha.
The cathedral preserved in a very good condition because even during the Soviet period it was a functioning church.
In the medieval Lviv, the Latin Cathedral was considered to be the second most important building after the town hall. It was spiritual center of the town and the site of important state decrees. The church was reconstructed many times over the centuries. That's why in originally Gothic building you can find the late Baroque and Rococo as well as Neo-Gothic decorations.
The territory around Latin Cathedral used to serve as a cemetery, because during Mid Ages all Christians they believed that they should bury their relatives into the holy ground. But at the end of the 18th century the cemetery was relocated out of the town limits. The only building that remained from that time, this is the Boehm's Chapel. The building was built over the crypt of Boehm's family. This is the unique object in our city because it hasn't been reconstructed from the time it was built in 1617.
No wonder that this iconic building is called Black Pearl of the city. And nowadays, the Boehm's Chapel is a part of the Lviv Art Gallery and can be visited as a museum.
Now I would like to show you one of my favorite streets in Lviv, Armenian Street, former Armenian Quarter. As I mentioned already, there were very many different ethnicities living in Lviv starting from the 13th century. Armenian community was one of the richest communities in Lviv during Mid Ages. They had their own court, and the first bank in Lviv belonged to Armenian community. Now we are going to see the heart of former Armenian Quarter, one of the oldest Armenian churches in Europe, the Armenian Cathedral.
The interior of the church is really breathtaking. The Armenian Cathedral is one of the most special churches in our city, not only because it's one of the oldest, but also because of its paintings and mosaics. Here you can find amazing carved wooden ceiling and fresco fragments dating to the 16th century. Special attention is drawn by the Holy Trinity, a mosaic composition on the inside of the dome by a famous Polish artist, Józef Mahofer. And usually people are amazed by the Art Nouveau paintings belong to the brush of young Henrik Rosen, painted in 1920s. And by the way, this is also one of my favorite churches. I usually come here to pray or just to spend here a couple of minutes in peace and quiet.
Behind me you can see the oldest part of the church, which was built in 1363. The main part of the church was built in the 17th century, and the main entrance to the church was reconstructed at the very beginning of the 20th century. During the Soviet times, the church was closed and
it was a warehouse, but as a functioning Armenian Apostolic Church, it has been functioning from 2003. Behind me, you can see one of the most beautiful buildings in our city, Lviv Opera House, built in 1900 by the famous architect of the time, Zygmunt Gorgolevsky. At the end of the 19th century, Lviv was the capital of Galicia province, which belonged to Austro-Hungarian Empire. Grand Theatre, as it was called, should have emphasized the greatness of the city and became the center of cultural life. The best architects, painters, sculptors worked on the construction of Lviv Opera House. The project was led by Zygmunt Gorgolevsky, the architect himself. It was one of the first buildings in Europe where the concrete foundation had been used, and also one of the first buildings in Lviv with electricity. And just imagine that the building process took only 3 years. Nowadays, Lviv Opera House is named after Solomia Krushelnitska, one of the most famous opera singers all over the world at the beginning of the 20th century. And still, the theater plays an important role in the city's cultural life, and it's one of the favorite places for tourists to go. So, even if you are not fond of ballet or opera performances, you can go on a tour inside, and believe me, you'll love it. Today we've seen the real highlights of our city, which I strongly recommend when you visit Lviv, and I hope you'll love them as much as I do. Of course, there are many more other places to visit in Lviv, so you're always welcome to the City of Lions.
I hope that you liked these videos and now you are inspired by Ukraine. And when travel will return, you will come to Ukraine and will have an unforgettable experience over here. Plan and dream now and travel to Ukraine tomorrow.
We look forward to moments together, stories to tell, and smiles to share. New emotions to enjoy and experience. For now, all we can do is just imagine them, just dream about our wonderful trips waiting for us. Right now is the time to be cautious, to take care, and to stay at home. So that one day, very soon, we can be on the road together again, seeking new adventures. All the places you'd like to visit aren't going anywhere. It's just a matter of time. The world around us is changing, but our desires remain the same. The desires to travel and have new experiences, to enjoy conversations, food, people, life, Ukraine.